really, we're going to kick it off with why we're doing this. We just got a couple quick things to the 2024 is here. There's been just ridiculous amounts of change, right? So we got a few big bullets here to kind of talk through, and it's just open forum with the fellows here. Of some of the most recent things, or what's happening, and obviously number one at the top of everybody's mind right now, anybody that's a VMware customer, is of course the upheaval, nightmare, whatever you want to call it. Everybody coming up for renewals with these guys, and that's been probably the biggest upheaval so far right now that I can think of. I mean, with Krill, with you being our Nutanix practice lead, obviously that's just creating a ton of conversation. What's out there, what are we going to do, all that, right? So not just on the infrastructure side, but also on the EUC side while we're here. So obviously they divested of that, and that went over to KKR, which also owns Parallels. So we're going to talk about that in the next slide a little bit, but a lot of change there. And then, with the next one, I'll let Shane touch on that. He's going to be touching more on the Citrix stuff here later, but massive changes there for like 2 rounds in a row, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say, not the same as what Broadcom's doing, but with Broadcom, you look at the simplification of the SKUs is the nice thing to say, and then you look at like how it's impacting the customers. Not good, right? From the Citrix perspective, they took the same approach of simplifying the SKUs. I think they went down from 700 down to 3. 3 on the kind of the DAS, CVAD, and we'll talk about the new names side, and then obviously a few on the NetScaler, but also with that bringing in value to that, and so we'll talk to that later. So I think it's a positive shift on the Citrix side for customers that are I'd say mid to larger size, right? For the smaller customers, it kind of left a pretty big gap. And so it kind of made it a situation for us where we started to look and say, hey, as we love Citrix as the number one. We've always been an agnostic company for Azure focused customers, or we're looking at obviously AVD and then Nerdio for the enterprise capability on top. But it really left a gap for small business, and so we'll talk more about how we're kind of filling that or looking to fill that for customers. But I would say it's definitely on a more positive side than kind of where Broadcom's going and some of the decisions made there. But with that, obviously they still piss some customers off. I mean, I think any change, and really it's just, I think the best word for what's happening this year is just seismic, and both EUC as well as kind of the virtualization space. So
yeah. And with that, I'm going to be touching on some of the Microsoft stuff. Any of the EUC pieces we're talking about is really within our stack, and Microsoft's given into some pressure here recently. So when I was thinking about this, we see some of the changes on the AWS, the workspaces side, where now in 365, bring your own Windows 10, Windows 11 licenses can be used on AWS. Well, that was all pressure, right? It's all fear of lawsuit, probably, who knows, but they've bent a little bit there, right? They've also bent for example, the server OS, and for forever we've been told M365 is not going to be allowed on there. It was going to be killed in 2019, going to be killed again, and so on and so forth. They keep pushing that back. So even though Microsoft owns client licensing and office licensing, and that's a big part of the Azure momentum, of course, they're giving into some of that pressure there. So, and then really,
I would say, giving into some pressure. Also, I think Microsoft, like they play chess, right? Like they're they stalled the market all these years, right, till they can catch up, and now they're just running and gunning, right? So it's like they're giving into pressure, but they're also it's interesting how they're playing the game. But definitely they had a fold in it. And I think it's definitely a positive thing for the market, which we're excited to talk about on the AWS side here in a little bit.
Yeah. And then what can be said about AI? These two kind of go hand in hand, but everything. If you must have really been in a cave or under a rock or whatever, if you haven't seen AI in, I don't know, every app you use anymore. There's AI something or another, and that affects the EUC space, right? So we'll talk briefly about, Copilot, for example. Copilot's going to be something discussed by every organization and enterprise, but not licensed by all because it's expensive in office. But how does that affect the UC space? Well, we're seeing like bloat in FS logics and containers because when you turn on Copilot, it does some crazy things with indexing. So there's things like that where it's definitely going to affect us, right? Copilot's in all your browsers, just AI in general, the Nutanix space over there with Crow. We got GPT in a box, private cloud, private cloud AI. It's everywhere, right? Which has led to NVIDIA dominating the world at this point. If they own that space and have for quite some time, they were positioned to do what they're doing. I did see here last week the lead time of the H100s went down from 6 months to at least like within reason for 3 to 4 weeks, but they're backing these things up to the public cloud data centers in actual armored cars for their GPUs. So that tells you where we are today with AI, and there's just no way around it. I mean, it reaches into the EUC space and affects everything we're talking about, right? So, and then just post-COVID, we're out of the big ramp up over COVID, I would say, where everybody was running and gunning and trying to get employees outfitted for remote, and going through that whole process was just crazy, right? Yeah, I don't know, in the IT world and EUC space specifically, getting people the endpoints, getting people into stuff during COVID, all of a sudden, just it was nuts, right?
It was the year of VDI for 2 years.
It was. And
you can officially say it.
Yeah, and things have changed a little bit, right? So organizations are sending people back home, as you know. Yours is probably doing a little bit of that, but it's
back to the office,
hybrid, right? For quite some time. There's a lot of hybrid. It's going to stay hybrid for a lot of enterprises. So even though there's ebbs and flows, it's still, it created this whole space with, like, for example, control up and DEX. It's created new spaces in EUC because all of a sudden now being able to see people's home stuff is so critical, because even though some are putting them back into the office and putting butts in seats in cubes again, there's still a lot of this you can work from home compared to before. I mean, if you think back before COVID, it just seems insanity for where we are today. So the priorities are shifting now to more about securing things. The VPN stuff blew up over COVID, and now it's like, well, that might have not have been the best security play, right? But we had to do something. Now they're locking VPNs, VPNs are being locked back down, and now, we need more of the think about more apps and desktops and micro VPN and not doing a full VPN and things like that.
Yep. Yeah. Securing at the edge and also seeing, a shift back to physical again, kind of during some refresh. We're seeing some of that as well. And how to manage and maintain those and still enable a seamless experience. Oz will be talking more about that on the Microsoft side.
Which then also led to the public cloud explosion, right? Complete just blowout of public cloud, I would say. More so than an explosion, but an absolute blowout of all the providers trying to keep up with enterprises needing to burst out there, which is, has created focus on why public cloud is important, burst capability. But a lot went there and then got the bill, and now it's created somewhat of a pullback in some organizations, or at least taking a better look of what we put out there. For desktops running 24/7 out in public cloud is a fantastic idea, but it costs a lot of money. So, everything was quick for 3 years. Everything was quick without really checking the ramifications, and that has changed now, right? To where everybody's taking a look at those bills, taking a look at what really makes sense. We can kind of see if there's some stuff we can shift back hybrid. So yeah. And then last but not least, of course, which Krill, this is, kind of some of the stuff that we've seen on the Broadcom side. Obviously, they're killing off perpetual. I know they gave a lifeline out last week to some. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, they finally pulled the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. So I mean, everybody's doing it, right?
Yeah.
The perpetuals, dead. You know, the subscription licenses, everything. It's you know, whatever your favorite insert software vendor there, they're going to be doing subscription licensing. So don't be surprised when they come tell you that that perpetual one you had before is dead, if not dead already. So that just continues to be the case, and VMware Broadcom was one of the last to. I mean, they killed off a lot of stuff, of course, with the free, anything with the free hypervisor, anything with the perpetual, anything with a lot of their packages on the streamlines and stuff like that. But yeah,
they have a much larger impact than some other companies. When they pull that Band-Aid off, that's a really big Band-Aid. So that certainly sends some shockwaves through the market.
Yep. And we got a couple minutes left for this first part, but yeah, that has led to us with all these changes, with the craziness going on at Citrix and changes there, and really, you know, not just focused on the small customers and whatnot. So we got a lot of strategic technology vendors from the EUC side of things that we work with and we depend on. And so that has really made it. You'll notice in the top right, for example, we got Parallels, we got W365 along with AVD, we got Amazon Workspaces noted down below there. We've started picking up the pace on really reevaluating and needing to fill our toolbox with more strategic tools that fit certain scenarios better, right, for our customers, because it's all about the customer, it's all about you guys, it's all about what is the better play for your enterprise, and Citrix is not going to be the best play for everybody. So our game card has got bigger, you know, to where we have a few more on here, and we're working with others, and we're even continuously evaluating other plays too in this space. So I don't know, Shane, if you got anything more to add on that.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it pretty well. I think in the end of the day, it's like, you know, you've always been since day one at Choice, have never been tied to a single vendor, right? It's in the name, right? It's always about, you know, what's best for the customer, consultative approach, right? And so we've continuously are evaluating the different solutions. At first, it was a little hard, I feel like, for us, you know, being super strong on the Citrix side. I mean, and you look at us as a company, I'd say we're really like a boutique, you know, EUC shop, right? I mean, we're really, you know, sub 100 people in the organization, but our focus for the last 30 years has been end user computing, right? And so we really expanded that out. And you can see as we've done that, we've carefully cherry picked which solutions make the most sense. And what's nice around this is really ControlUp does just a phenomenal job kind of wrapping each of these solutions. So if you look at kind of what we've done is you look at, you know, like ControlUp and IGEL, these are agnostic solutions. We try to pick agnostic and not locked into a single vendor, which is why over the years we haven't, you know, been a Horizon, historically Horizon, right? Because we like to give choice. You look at Nutanix, you look at Citrix, you look at ControlUp. These are agnostic. ControlUp works with Parallels, with Citrix, with Horizon, with AVD, and Nerdy. It's agnostic, and that just makes the most sense for how we do business. And even on the Workspaces side, which we'll talk about, is really Workspaces core, which is Citrix, you know, being the protocol and the Citrix technology that's really providing access to those workspaces on Amazon. And I don't want to spoil the thunder there, so we'll talk more about that. So, and same thing with Automate, with it being agnostic from a robotic automation standpoint. So we really try to pick solutions that make sense.